topic that we were going to talk about or debate today is basically, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the title in front of me, but the idea that debate today is educational awareness, rehabilitation. The title in front of me is more effective in treating substance abuse problems than having stronger laws or harsher penalties. Okay, that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So, Mary, you were here and punish people more severely for it. What do you think?
Good question, but hard to answer. Punishment only means if someone have done something wrong. So I guess the most important is to prevent bad things happen. So I don't think punishment is just a tool probably people might be afraid of. So I think maybe noise is important. If we can ban growing or selling this kind of thing, it would be better. It could make people difficult to get to exposed to this kind of thing, this like drugs or even software and so on. But I think education is the most important. If we can train people or teach people how important we are, life is always the most important. And of course, we should always do something wrong. Do something good for ourselves. So self-control is the best way to prevent people to get addicted to some substance like drugs. So for other reasons, I think education is the most important, to teach people, to train people how important they are, and if they can resist themselves to what is the word? I can't find a word to describe it. Yeah, I mean to resist some attractive, right? To not to even to try. Of course, they won't have a chance to hurt themselves by short period of happiness and longer suffering from drug addiction. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask you well, first of all, does anybody have a question for what Mary said? So let me paraphrase what you said, just in case. So your point was that kind of the bottom line is education is the most important thing.
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of the bottom line for you. Okay, so does somebody have a question for Mary? What she said? Maybe specifically. Okay, I have a question.
I don't know why. Probably you guys are too nice or too. With questions, you can give more chance to practice. But with questions, of course, you will give me hard time. So what can I define?
Okay, Well, I have a question for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we talked about before earlier this week, China has a very large population. It's a large country,
Yes.
and there are pretty strong laws there. And I think in your country, like in some other countries, particularly if you're selling drugs, not necessarily just using drugs, but if you're selling drugs, there could be very, very harsh punishments in your country for those people. Um,
Could it could sentence could be sentenced to death?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So my question to you is, we talked about the idea that, for example, a lot of people in China, men, smoke cigarettes. Okay, it's common
Yes.
in China for people to do that. Why? Where do you stop? A lot of people drink alcohol. Okay, baijiu or pijiu. Okay, um, where do you stop? Why? When do you determine that one substance is okay, another is not okay?
Hmm. For me, all of them are not okay. But some people think drinking alcohol and smoking are okay because they think, as I said yesterday, some people even think if they can drink a lot, they feel since they can drink more than others, and it's difficult for them to get drunk. And for cigarette, I can understand why people drink alcohol, why people smoke. For me, they taste bad too. I can't.
Okay. Well, it's kind of, what I hear from you.
Mhm.
This is what I'm hearing from you. Basically, uh, for example, cigarettes and alcohol, they're legal, right? In other words,
Yeah, they're legal.
they're legal.
Yes,
Okay, marijuana, hashish, other drugs are illegal. Okay,
yes.
that's the only difference. One is legal, one is illegal. Okay.
Yeah, all of them are harmful to people. Why? I don't know why. And some of them are legal, and some of them are not legal. Probably just because in the past in China, people. I mean, the history of drinking alcohol and smoking has been lasted a long time. Probably that's the reason. I don't know. Since you know, alcohol has been made in China, and um, cigarette, or we call tobacco, was was planted in China. Has been planted in China. So probably just because they are they have been Chinese things probably. I don't know. I don't know the reason why they are legal. But for other things, I can't pronounce that word well. OPIUM. How do you pronounce OPM?
Yeah, opium,
OPM.
opium, opium.
Opium. Yeah, opium. Opium is something from other countries. I remember it first came from Britain, and even um, heroin, right? Heroin is also from other countries, and I don't know. Probably they're even more strong, more harmful, but probably that's the reason. I don't know. But as you say, according to you, marijuana probably just a kind of a cigarette, right? But it's not from China, so it's illegal, I guess. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, again, it's I guess whatever society deems, and remember, laws are made based upon what society deems is okay, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's right.
people vote for politicians. Politicians, create laws. So if people feel strongly about something, for something, then they will vote for people that will put laws in the place that either allow something or that will make something illegal, right?
Yeah, probably. Since when I learned the history of China, about opium, right? Opium.
Yeah, opium.
Yeah, because at that time, British people sell opium in China, and our history books says it um, cost Chinese people a lot of. In the past, we use gold and silver to buy things, right? Not kind of bale or corn in the past. So they think China lost a lot of gold or silver. So it made Chinese so poor. And the other reason was that it's also harmful for Chinese people. That's why Chinese and government tried to ban selling this kind of thing and try to I don't know which word I should use to describe it. So yeah, to destroy opium, right, in China.
Right, 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 right. Okay, okay. Very interesting. Chong is smoking in Chinese, right? Chong, right?
What's that?
Chong in Chinese, smoking is chongyi, chong. How do you say smoking in Chinese? Chong,
抽烟.
choyan,
Oh,
choyang, chongyang. Okay, okay, chongyang. Okay, all right.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mary? Okay, Mary.
Probably. I'm so boring, so
Oh
nobody
my
want to pay
gosh, you're
attention
so
to me.
boring. You're so boring. Oh my gosh. Listen how boring you are, okay?
No way, no way, no. Really, so
Okay.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, you said education is important. So also, how can I say, what kind of education or what kind of information Chinese people can get from media or school about this issue?
Haruki,
Mhm.
you have a question for me, right? But your voice was breaking up for me, so would you please repeat what you said?
Okay. Uh, 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 what kind of information or education can Chinese people get from media, Chinese media or school or some other occasion?
Nothing. I can tell you nothing about
Mhm.
drug in Chinese, and maybe it's a blank in China, and it's easy for people to get exposed to drug. People can buy drug in bars, in maybe how do you call places where you can send down break like a shop, but
Yeah,
not
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
drink.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's very common. It's very easy for people to buy. So I just now I said ban selling this kind of thing probably is even more important um, than polish if people if people use to buy. If there's nothing to buy, how can people get it, right? And uh, it's controversial in China. Um, Everyone knows, right? Smoking is not good, and it doesn't make sense. Um, but Chinese government even forces Chinese. farmer to plant, because planting a cigarette or tobacco needs a lot of work. So a lot of Chinese farmers do not want to plant, but government, because of maybe they think finance reasons, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have this kind of product, you can get a lot of income. Tax, right?
Yep.
So they force their local government usually force the citizen to plant. If they don't, they will be fined. They will get ticket. That's something I don't know. That's not something I can understand.
That's actually very, very interesting. So basically, the government subsidizes or forces tobacco farmers
Yes.
to plant tobacco because they're able to generate tax off of it, right? When you sell,
Yeah.
it's so funny how our governments, not just in China but in general, our governments work that if it results in them getting additional money, sometimes they're okay with something, even though maybe it's not good for society.
Not good at all.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the things that I think in a lot of countries happens. Okay, very interesting.
Thank you.
You said something though, real quickly. You said something though that I thought was very interesting. You said, if there's nothing to buy, how can you get it? Okay. Okay. That is a good point. But I could also say the other way around. If there is no demand, if people don't want to use it, then there will be nobody to sell it because it's about
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's all about supply and demand, right? I mean, if there's not a demand for it, there won't be anybody to supply it. Okay, so you can look at it.
So that's the first point I said. So education is most important. If people can control themselves, so they would not need it. So even people want to sell, but as you said, if there's no demand, how can they sell their products, right?
Yeah. Very true.
So both sides, right?
Yeah. Both sides. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mary before we move on?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I mean, she said the education is key.
Go ahead, Johnny.
For this problem, right? I don't think that education will solve much of this problem because let's give an example about tobacco and smoking. People know already. I think most countries have a pretty good education about what tobacco does to the body, but yet people still smoke. So being educated in that sense, knowing about the product, about what it does to the body, or even if you know everything about tobacco, you will. I mean, if you are a smoker, you will still smoke it. But if you
I don't think so.
If you attack other problems that make people consume, then there I think you will have progress. I don't think education in this particular scenario is as effective as actually attacking the problem.
I guess it's just because education comes to people too late. Usually, when people know this kind of thing too bad for their body, because they have already been addicted, so it's too late for them. If they can get education earlier before they get addicted to probably. Yeah, it's still education, I think, for me. I could be wrong, but it's my view.
I understand.
like I said before, when my son was young, he always thought and drinking and smoking was not good. He even didn't want to play. He even didn't want to make friends with people who um, smoked or who drank, right? So, of course, because when he was young, we all told him smoking was not good at all, and drinking was not good at all, and how bad they could be to people's body. So probably he had been um, in, impressed, right? So he it's become a part of his beliefs. So he would not accept, even when he grew up. Of course, he began to face some problems, like people persuade him to drink, to taste cigarette. I mean, to smoke cigarettes, to try cigarettes, but he refused. He always tell them, "I don't like the taste. I don't know whether it's the truth, but at least once I remember he drank some beer, but he got drunk, and that evening he told me, I would never drink again."
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And
mm,
did I answer your question?
Me,
uh-huh.
He didn't answer your question. It's
Yeah.
definitely counted.
Yeah, I think he was just making a comment. He wasn't really asking
Oh,
a specific question. It was more of a general comment. Um, okay. Well, let's go ahead and go. Thank you, Mary, so much. Let's go ahead and go to Moyu. Moyu. So, what do you think
Yes.
about this
Yeah.
topic? Which one's more effective?
Yeah. For me, I'm in agreement with Mary. I believe because addiction is a disease. So, and the other day, the what you posted from what you posted, I read that the longer you drink, the longer you use those alcohol, it is they are going to have an impact in your brain, and then there were a certain chemical reaction which happened to your brain, and then you couldn't stop it the longer you use. So it's not a voluntary act; it is a disease. And when you have a disease which you cannot control it, you cannot stop it, you cannot quit it, then you need education and rehabilitation at the same time, I guess. Maybe you need education in the sense that you need to be sensitized, educated about the seriousness of this problem, what you are going through, the ways you can come over, and also given treatment. For example, if you were using a cocaine or maybe another serious drug, then you may given as a substitute for lesser drug, and later on maybe stop altogether. So you can't put a jail, you can't prison, you can't just use laws, I guess, in terms of that, the one who is sick. So and if you had already said that in economics they have everything. When you want to sell something, you need a demand, and if you stop that demand, if you stop using it, I guess it's no one is going to supply it because there's no market for it. you can get money, you can make money out of that drug. So for me, I absolutely believe education, I mean treatment, medication, rehabilitation, because it's a disease and you can't control. Maybe many people think that it is a voluntary act, therefore you have the responsibility to stop, but it's already went over that, it's already past that stage, and it turned into the disease, and you can't put a sick person in a prison and expect that the guy will get okay in prison, because so you that's I think it is craziness. And at the day, I couldn't remember, but I was reading something about the drug use, and there were two countries they were comparing, and one of them was USA, and I forgot the other country, but they were saying American government, or maybe I don't know, they punish, they have got strong laws against this the drug selling and use, and still they say that's not stopping anything. But instead they say the drug addiction it is getting very spread in the USA. But there are other countries, small country, I forgot the name, but they say those countries just legalized the drug use and then introduced the education, treatment, rehabilitation center. So that problem already stopped. That become effective in dealing with those drug things. So I think nowadays already that's proven. You can't put a patient in a patient, just a patient needs treatment, need medication, need rehabilitation, education. Maybe a little bit of laws is important sometimes, but I don't believe tightening the laws and just killing those guys. And yeah, everything depends on research. So yeah, I think nowadays, if you look at those countries, it is very important to give people education they need. Another thing is that in Africa and in my country, uh, we have a lot of problems. So even if we have that problem, I don't see that problem much. But even if we have, my government doesn't have the resources and maybe the attention to
Right.
pay to care about that, because they have other big problems like
Yeah.
security,
Right.
like health problems, like they don't food is not stable, so they are hungry. So instead they ignore that problem, they overlooked.
Hmm.
But a human being is valuable, it is productive. So I think people should be given education, and then they're going to be productive in the society instead of putting in prison. But another way, if you put many people for drugs in prisons, then you need a lot of resources also to
Yeah.
pay the cost. You need
Yep.
to sustain. You need a lot of soldiers. You need a lot of facilities.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
very costly. And at the end of the day, the result, you may get adverse result. You get
Yep.
nothing, but you wasted the money of the people. So
Yep.
for me, I absolutely believe education and rehabilitation must be the priority for any country to deal with those problems of drug and those kind of stuff.
You bring up a really good point because you talked about the financial part of the money part of it, right? And people don't realize, again, like you said, that's a really good point. The resources that are required from everything to the justice system. If somebody does something, you got to catch them, then you got to take them to court, they got to go through a trial, then you put them in prison, then you got to feed them, you got to give them a place to right. And people don't realize the costs associated with incarcerating or treating it as a criminal offense. People don't. There's a, particularly, well, I won't talk about my country, but it is a significant cost. Okay. And something both you and I think also Mary before you said something I think that was really important too. I think that a lot of this maybe stems from the environment. Okay, again, what are the if we have people around us that do something, obviously we're probably more susceptible to doing it ourselves, right? So if we have parents that maybe drink a lot, or parents that smoke, or parents that, okay, or if we hang out with friends, like you're saying, Mary, your son, Hodge, he doesn't like to be around people that maybe do something, so being in that environment around people that they either do or don't has a large impact on whether or not you will do or don't, right? That's a good point that both of you guys brought up. Interesting. Let me ask you one more question, Moyu, specifically. So what is the difference in your country and Somalia between somebody that does society look at people that use drugs differently than people that sell drugs? In other words, do they say people that use drugs, okay, they're like the victims, and people that sell drugs are like the abusers? Is that how they look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are difference. Especially the people who are selling are divided into two categories. The one like it is, some of them are offenders. They are very small sellers. It's just maybe they are orphan children. Maybe they are widows who are selling. So those people, usually what they do, people justify for it. They say they give excuse. They say they are very poor. But those big guys who export from other countries, people see it as criminals. They are saying they are worst to humankind. They are destroying the country. They are destroying the lives of other people, and also users. People, they don't put the same position as those big sellers. Some of them I see, people have different ideas, but the one thing people agree about is that those big sellers who supply those drugs from most of the time abroad, we don't grow here in any drug. People see them as criminals, and maybe 100%, 90% of people believe that those people needs to be put in prison and to be jailed for what they did. It's like they killed human beings, something like that.
Right. Okay. And that's an interesting point as well, that we have what we call organized crime or crime syndicates, right? Which are often large, sometimes international organizations that do that, right? That smuggle abroad or do other things. So, okay, interesting. So in your country, Moyu, if a mother, maybe she's trying to raise her children, maybe her husband's not around and she's a single mother, and in order to survive she sells a little bit of drugs in order to make some income for her children. In your society, people would not look at her in such a bad way that they would look at somebody that's a part of a larger criminal organization, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, interesting. Any questions for Moyu from anybody?
So that means in Somalia, the drug dealers is not belong to the big gang organization or something.
Yeah, could you say that again, please?
Yes, drug dealers in your country is not related to big organization, kind of gang organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I got your point. I guess here in Somalia, most of the first and foremost, we are not have that widespread drug problem, except that we have the cut really right now. The cut, that's the big problem, and also we have other smaller problems. Maybe even we have, but we overlooked it because there are other big problems. But we don't have such an organized crime syndicate. We don't have that such. But we have those. I don't know if they are organized or not. We have few big guys who are making a lot of money out of the drug here in Somalia, and they are importers. They send it. They get those products from other countries. So those guys, people believe they are not human beings. They are not belonging to to the people, because they are saying they are destroying the lives of other vulnerable people.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, very interesting. Hey, Marissa, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. Welcome, Marissa.
Thank you.
So we're having a discussion today talking about substance abuse and which is more effective, education and rehabilitation or stronger laws. So we were going to have a debate, but we didn't have enough people, so we're just doing a general discussion right now, okay?
Mm.
So welcome so much. Thank you, Moyu. I had one more question for you, Moyu. So so a lot of times in some countries where maybe there's not a strong government, or there's a very corrupt government, okay, oftentimes these organized crimes or these organized, I'm sorry, not really crimes, these organized crime syndicates, they take advantage of maybe a weak government or a corrupt government to be able to do this. Do you see this as a problem in your country?
Right now, I don't see that as a big problem, because we have a bigger problem. So we don't see that much. But yeah, you said already well. Our government is very weak, and also whenever the government is weak means also it is corrupted, because they can't have the monitoring system they need to check or inspect what's going on. So yeah, it is not now. I think right now it is not a big problem. There are other bigger problems we need
Right.
first to just
Right.
to
Okay.
solve.
Okay. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, Thank you for sharing your ideas on that. So, Hiroki,
Yeah.
how about Japan? Huh?
Yeah. So, yeah, actually, I think the punishment cannot solve this problem. Just punishment, and it is said for as I said, speed is as a troublesome heavy drug here. So one report says, oh, 60% criminals using speed again. Also, if the age is over 50, 84%, almost most of the people use speed again after they get out of jail or penalty. So the researcher says, because not all people can be can addicted to it, but usually the people who are addicted the chemical have the same, maybe researcher says they cannot rely on people. So usually, especially in the past, mass media, people think they are weak-minded people. Such kind of things are pretty common. But nowadays, researchers, some people began to say they are not weak, but they cannot rely on people. Behind that issue, why they cannot rely on people? Because they have a traumatic experience before about human relationship. For example, kind of domestic violence, abusing maybe parents or father or something like that. Or so, as you said, maybe yesterday, you are searching for the reason why they became addicted for drugs. So maybe they have a reason to addicted to it. So maybe to help to solve that problem is important. Also, but because of the chemicals, their brain changed. So proper rehabilitation is necessary to get back to the usual situation. Maybe also, as Mo said, if it is just criminalized, maybe people just using again, arrested again, maybe it costs a lot actually. Also, if they therefore it's not safe for the community, because if they cannot abandon the drugs, maybe crime rate or something got higher. So maybe we need to think this issue as a whole. Also, talking about education, sometimes, some people, especially youngsters, like risky things. So maybe they just use this drug just for curiosity. So just say, oh, it's not good. This kind of thing is not good thing. It works to some kids, but it doesn't work to some kids. So for me, kind of shocking issue happened. After the one singer was arrested, Speed, and he was released, and then kind of the media doubt he used it again, and in the end, no, he was not arrested because there's no chemical was released was found from his body, but during the kind of live show, he called to the show, which doubting he's using the speed again, and he denied, and then he began to talk about kind of big organization bugging my phone or all around all people in Japan kind of things. It could be true, but seems like a bit hallucination kind of thing for me. So I was shocked about that. Maybe even though he wasn't arrested, but he used to be addicted to speed. So it kind of flashback could happen too, because that's the meaning of brain change. That's the one kind of typical education for me to what happened after using such chemicals. So maybe education, maybe such kind of education is also important. Just say it's bad kind of thing, but show the actual example or something. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, Hiroki. So in I think in Japanese society, people are again very concerned about their image, right? How they look at according to others. So is there a stigma? Is there like a social stigma in Japanese society for people that do use drugs?
Maybe alcohol. So as you said, sometimes, especially in the past, people for people think alcohol is one way of communication. So it's very in terms of alcohol, the society encourage or forced to drink. But nowadays, it's maybe it is changing. Also, Japanese law or drunken drivers law changed maybe 10 years ago or something. It get more stricter. So not only the drivers but also passengers can be penalized if they know the driver were drunken. So after that, maybe I have to drive, so I cannot drink. Or nowadays, youngsters refuse to go such kind of kind of how can I say company's party or something. Or
right.
Even though they go there, they they openly say, I cannot drink because my body cannot tolerate drinking. Such kind of thing is more openly said. But traditionally, kind of alcohol is kind of encouragement, and society encourages people to drink, especially for men. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Hiroki? Any questions for Hiroki about
Yeah.
go ahead, Moyu.
Yeah, I wonder. I have been reading something about those things. So I know some countries it is widespread drug addiction, while others it's not that. It's not that much. So I wonder how drug addiction or drug use is in Japan.
Yes, and actually, not so obvious here because I don't know what's going on here actually. But recently, so it's kind of taboo to talk about it in Japanese society. So and so I don't know what is going on, but I showed the chart after Johnny talk about asked me about that, and nowadays maybe the hard drug user is reducing, but soft drug users is increasing. That also in the maybe 5 or 10 years ago, kind of how can I say English? Maybe legal high. Is it English?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the same chemical which is called the same effect to the body, but the chemical formula just changed a little bit, so it could be legal. Such kind of thing were a bit became a kind of news or sensationally reported in Japan, but I don't know what. After that law changed, nowadays legal high chemical is more stricter rule was applied, but I think it's still going on in a maybe in underground. Probably.
So something you said, Hiroki, which I think is really important when we think about Japanese culture again, is that it tends to be more of a people don't necessarily express a lot of things. Like you said, you use the word taboo to talk about. And I think that's true in a lot of areas in Japanese culture, right? I mean, in other words, it's not so common to hear an open debate in Japanese society about it, or people would not necessarily they would hesitate before they came forward to talk to somebody maybe about a problem in their family, right?
Maybe I think so in general, but nowadays internet or you go to some internet site or some show in the internet, people talk about it, but general, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Hiroki.
Welcome.
Okay, so Johnny, did you want to go, or do we want Marissa to go?
Your call.
Marissa, did you want to go ahead and tell us what you think?
You can do, yeah. Well, I think both are really important and effective, really, because and they've both got their own disadvantages and advantages as well, because the more they keep changing and trying to strengthen the laws, the more people still go and start using really bad drugs a lot and that, but they just do it more in secret and underground and things like that. So it still doesn't ever stop the problem, and sometimes it makes it worse. And whereas if there's more rehab facilities, that isn't always effective either, because quite often you hear about people that go in for a long time and maybe don't follow the whole program or don't try as much, and sometimes even in those places people end up getting past different drugs and things as well, so it tends not to work. And we've heard recently of quite a few people that we've gone into. Hang on, I gotta go.
Okay, I think you have somebody there. You have a visitor.
Another blue.
Okay, yeah, she had a visit. Yeah, that was her dog, Devin. Yeah, that was her guide dog. Okay, so the dog knows his job very well. Okay. All right. So because she had a visitor, she had to go. So I was looking forward to asking her some questions. I think the UK share some similar traits with the United States. I think, but I was going to ask her, but I guess we'll find out later on. I was curious whether or not some of the soft drugs are legal there. Okay, so Johnny, Mr. Johnny.
Yeah.
Tell us about Argentina.
It's not a much. not about so much about Argentina, but I can say what I think about
Okay.
that topic. I think that education and rehabilitation and even stronger laws or any law are just one small part of what it should be a bigger program to address the issue. Education could be important, but not for the user. I mean, not for the one who is on drugs, but for people who are going to address the issue. Um, if we can educate people to become problem solvers, society problem solvers, that would have much more impact on this issue than actually trying to educate the one who is on drugs. And that's because even if people get educated about how bad it is, how bad it will do to your body, they will still do it. I bring again the example of smoking cigarettes. Uh, I believe that most people know what that smoking is dangerous for your body. It causes problems. Even when they buy the cigarette, they can see very awful pictures on it. Um, uh, Everywhere, for example, here in my country, everywhere you go, you see bad advertising. I mean, advertising against cigarettes. So it's like people are constantly reminded that smoking tobacco is really bad and it can really damage your body. But people still do it because smoking for them is like some kind of, it gives them some kind of benefit, perhaps some kind of relaxation, perhaps some kind of calm. And I can imagine that with drugs too. When people consume drugs, it's not because they don't know what what these substances do to their body. It's because they try to escape from something, despite of all of that. Um, and and that's why I say if we educate people to become problem solvers, to attack the root of the problem, and since the reasons why people consume drugs are so many, uh, the reasons are very much different from person to person. Uh, the problem relies on different issues on different aspect of the society. Perhaps it's because people don't have jobs and they are depressed. Maybe because they have problems at home. Maybe because they have romantic problems. Maybe they have family problems. Maybe they have economical problems, financial problems, or maybe they're just bored, um, or they had a tragic loss in their lives, or I mean, reasons are vary. So many reasons. Um, so these people try to escape from that. They try to have some kind of different reality. They find themselves in a reality, despite of all the bad things that they can, um, those drugs can bring. So it's not about not knowing what it does, but rather, trying to escape from problems. So if we can attack those roots, I think that will have more effect on the long run than actually trying to rehabilitate them or trying to punish them. Because, like Marisa said, I mean, having laws or rehabilitation will not actually solve the problem. It's like having a pipe with water that is leaking water. Rehabilitation and laws will be just a way to canalize that water into the sewer, but it will not actually solve the leaking. So you need to solve that issue first, because the other is just making it cleaner, the whole mess. So I think the education is for the people who are going to um, ponder about this problem, who are trying to solve, who will go and talk with these consumers, but not the education for the user, because that's just useless, and it is a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. I think educating people to become problem solvers could be more cost effective, and perhaps all the others, like rehabilitation and having better law, could be just the tip of the program, a part of it, but it should be part of a bigger program. That's what I think.
Okay, so I don't know where to start. Okay, I guess you know, and in okay, let me get my tongue back. In any given society, there will always be issues, right? Right. So what you're saying is that people need to learn, again, the different things you talked about, maybe, unhealthy relationships, or, maybe the loss of somebody close to you in your life, or there's things that trigger people to do other things, right?
Right.
So what you're saying is people need to come up with more healthy, what we'll call coping mechanisms, or finding ways to cope with these situations instead of turning to something like substance abuse as a solution, which is obviously not a solution, right?
Right. My point is that, I mean, the reasons are many. You cannot tackle the whole issue at once because it's just too big. You have to go issue by issue. For instance, if people start consuming because they cannot find job, they are so depressed, everywhere they go, they are getting rejected. Well, try to solve the job issue first, right? Provide job opportunity for everybody, despite their age or despite their physical situation. I mean, if you solve that issue, well, you eliminate
Right.
one reason, then you go to attack the other one. Let's attack family problems. I don't know how we can better that situation, but I mean, if you go one by one, at the end you will solve all these problems, so people won't have any reasons to consume drugs, and they won't have any reason to escape from anything.
Okay, so in a perfect world, which we know we don't live in a
Yeah.
perfect world, you would try to address the root cause,
Right.
of again the triggers that create the
Right.
situation.
I know
Okay,
what I'm talking about is
but
not
we
doesn't
recognize we don't
exist
live in a
right now, but that's actually what we should be thinking about. That's how we should, try to tackle the problem. I know that it doesn't exist right now. I think there is the
but you
solution.
but you also but you also agree now in real life, okay, in real life, okay, that we do need to have rehabilitation centers. We need to have people that are trained, how to work with people to, move away from addiction. You do agree that awareness is important, right?
Not so much when the
So
problem
you're saying
still
you're not saying these things aren't
persists.
important. You're
Because let's suppose a person who had gone through rehab and has temporarily, let's say, overcome it. But if you don't eliminate the reasons why the person
okay.
consumed in the first place, that person will fall in that again. Suppose that person consumed because he or she
Okay.
didn't find job, but after rehab he still cannot find job. Then that person will again do it.
Okay. Okay. So let me talk about what happens in rehab, because I'm pretty familiar with the standard process of rehabilitation. Normally in rehabilitation, one of the first things they teach you is how to cope with these things. So when we think about rehab, it's not necessarily just addressing the addiction issue, it's addressing the reason why you become addicted, okay? That's part of rehabilitation, okay? Because you're right. If you don't ever address the root cause or the basis, you're gonna relapse. You're gonna go back into that habit again. Okay, you're gonna start smoking or start taking hard drugs or start shooting up or start drinking again. Okay, so normally but normally in rehabilitation, what they do is they teach you. That's part of the success of rehab. They teach you how to deal with those situations. They teach you how to manage if you have a anger management issue, right? They teach you how to manage your anger. If you have I don't know, maybe you're somebody that has a hard time socializing with people. Okay, they teach you communication skills, how to do that. So the point,
Rick, I mean, rehab is just trying to treat people when the problem was already there, how to deal with that. And my point is that we need to try to address the point before it happens. Something similar to what Mary was saying. We need to find a way to prevent the issue to happen in the first place. Otherwise, you will always have people in rehab. All we have, one comes, the other goes, but you need to find a way to stop the cycle.
Right. No, I understand. But the real life now is that you need to do both, right? So you need to address the root cause, because you can't just say I accept that people are going to be
that's what I say
users or we're not going to do anything about it.
A very small portion of the sorry to interrupt you. A very small portion of the entire program.
Got it. Okay. How about, let me ask you a question about the penalty part of this, the punishment part of it. So, and again, I'm basing this on Argentina. Okay. Is it your belief that, for example, in your country, is it something that, punishment should be reserved to those that are serious offenders, i.e., what Moyu was saying earlier about maybe crime syndicates or organized crime? Or is it something that anyone caught using should have some kind of penalty? Do you see what I'm saying? Between a user and a seller, I mean, how should the justice system handle those two different groups of people?
Well, that's very specific question, and I don't have enough information to answer that.
Okay. Oh no, but just what do you think though?
How we should.
I mean, if somebody, the example would be, because I think it was. Yeah, because if we think about earlier, what came up earlier in the discussion is that, of course, let's take here in my country, okay? So somebody that smokes a joint, okay, a marijuana cigarette, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, for example, in California, that's legal, right? So you're not going to get paid if the police catch you with a marijuana in your car, they're not going to throw you in jail, okay? That's legal. It's legal as long as you're not, I think, smoking and driving, okay? So in some countries today, you would be taken away and put in jail, right? Because it's obviously illegal, okay? Which now it costs money, blah, 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 all these things, right? So do you think there ought to be some kind of rule that says, okay, you can do certain things and not have to worry about going to prison, or no, everything should be, looked at? We have back in the 1980s in my country, we had something called Just Say No. Okay, it was a famous thing that when Ronald Reagan was our president here, and it was about the same time that I had joined the military. So it was very, very zero tolerance, right? No tolerance. You cannot do it. If you, for example, if you're in the military, you get caught doing that, you were immediately kicked out. So it's called zero tolerance. Well, things have changed a lot since then, okay? And now people here are saying that, yeah, you could do some things and it's fine, okay? But there's other things you can't do. So in Argentina specifically, though, how do you see this?
Well, I guess it would depend on the kind of drug. Because there are some medicinal drugs.
Okay.
let's say marijuana, for
Okay.
instance. Some people use it for
Okay.
cancer, right? So it would depend how or why they use it. There are some gray areas.
Okay. Okay, and that's what causes us that word right there, gray areas, or those words right there. Those gray areas is what causes so much confusion, because people can make an argument that somebody maybe has a terminal disease, right? And so giving them or allowing them to use marijuana as a way of relaxing or treating the pain. Who's going to deny that? Most people are going to say you can't deny somebody that,
It's
right?
also an open door to cheat or to abuse the system. Yep, people can cheat.
Okay, and how about those people that say there's been zero? Yeah. Well, how about those people that say that zero deaths have been caused by zero? You cannot overdose on marijuana. Is my point. You go overdose on opioids, which people do all the time, and they die, but you cannot overdose on marijuana, right?
I didn't
So,
know.
For those people that make those kind of arguments, you can't overdose on marijuana. You can't, you smoke all this. I mean, the worst thing that can happen, you're going to sleep for a long time, okay? Right? Or maybe you get munchies and eat a lot of food or whatever, okay? But the point is, you cannot overdose on marijuana. Now, opioid, yes, you can. And of course, things like heroin or cocaine or some of these hard drug substances, you can. That was one of the arguments in my country for legalizing marijuana, was that, there aren't really the same kind of consequences, that there are with other types of drugs, okay?
Right.
From a health standpoint. So, okay, so I mean, is basically are any of those things legal today in Argentina, or of course cigarettes and alcohol are, but are any of the soft drugs, are they legal or not legal in your
I don't
country?
have enough information.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Anybody have a question for Johnny besides me?
You already asked him a lot of questions, so
You stole their thunder.
I know, and I'm sorry. I'm always curious. I'm always
yeah. Thank you. Even for me, I got a lot of information because I thought Argentina and Mexico, they have a big problem in drug. They are like, but now I see like Argentina. It's not like Mexico in terms of those things.
Yeah, I think they're quite a bit different.
Oh, we are doing a pretty good job when it comes to drugs and in the borders, and the military always caught very big shipping of this kind of substance, and they all put on the news like, "Hey, look at what we did! We captured this guy." It's so funny, and that's the most interesting that you can see on the news, because other than that, it doesn't happen much.
Yeah, I think in Central and South America, countries like Colombia obviously has a major problem.
Yeah.
Okay, Peru has some issues. So there are some countries, I think, in South America that have a much larger problem than. I think countries like Argentina, Chile, a few others are.
There's no demand here.
I don't know how to say it.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. Yeah. Central America, there are obviously problems in Central America, and of course, Mexico, there are problems as well.
This. I heard in the world there is only one country is really free of drug, that's Singapore. Is it correct? I don't know. That's what I heard. Probably smoking and smoking cigarette and drinking alcoholic is legal, but that's what I heard. That's a piece of land which is free of drug. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Well, I've been to Singapore a few times, and now it was some time ago, but people drink in Singapore. They smoke in Singapore. I mean,
They smoke, they drink.
but you know, the thing about Singapore is they are very, very, very mindful about public display. You know, so you know, if you're walking around in Singapore and smoking a cigarette and throw your cigarette on the ground, you could get in trouble for that. Okay, right? So they're very hard on the enforcement part of it. They have very strong penalties in Singapore.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. So you know, you can't throw trash on it. You could get a ticket for throwing trash on the ground. Okay. Same in my country too. Okay. But yeah, Singapore has but there they cane people. They have other, they're pretty strict about a lot of things. I mean, when I went to Singapore, again, this was some time ago, and maybe things have changed since I went there. But you know, you could smoke, you could drink. You know, there's nothing wrong. A lot of people do, but they are very, again, mindful about what people do in a public environment. Okay, and again, think about Singapore. The three main groups you have there are Malays, Indians, and Chinese. Okay, and of course you have some British, right, and some foreigners. But you know, the government there is very, very tough on those kind of things. Very tough, you know. Yeah. So they I don't.
The government there enforce laws really strictly, right?
Yep. They do. They're very, 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 very strict. So maybe that's the reason why. I'm sure that there's still drugs there. I'm sure there are. You could go to any part of the world. There's drugs. Okay, but it's just a matter of you know, how much it's abused and how prevalent or how common is it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and I think, Aman, are you here?
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
And thank you. And you. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Aman.
Did you want to tell us, did you want to share with us about your country and about substance abuse? India?
Yes. Yes. I had some people who is drinking alcohols and smoking, but drinking and smoking and another people to have it, so not good for health. So that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was fast. Okay.
Okay.
So, well, okay. You're from India. So how do the laws work there? Are you know? I know in India a lot of people smoke. I think a lot of people probably drink
yes,
too.
of course. I live in Punjab. Some people who are very, very drinking and smoking, but my family and other people not involved and pure vegetarian, so that not have it and avoids all things. I don't know about my country who is drinking, who is smoking.
Okay.
But I see only films and seeing. That's it.
Okay. And you said you live in Punjab province, right? Right?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Okay, because Punjab province borders Pakistan, right?
Yeah, of course. I hear about Pakistan.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, and I know Pakistan has hashish and some other drugs that they do in Pakistan. hashish and opium. Same thing with Afghanistan too. Okay, all right. Thank you, Aman. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead and give my view, and then we'll wrap up. So basically, I look at all the elements. Okay, I look at the preventative measures, which would be similar, Johnny, to what you brought up, and again, yeah, Mary brought this up as well in terms of dealing with the root cause of what causes people to get into substance abuse. That's one part. I look at the awareness and education as being a factor for people that are younger, maybe in high school, even maybe middle school, okay? And just in general, to understand the consequences of substance abuse. I look at rehabilitation as an important part of the process for addressing this in terms of people that already have some kind of addictive behavior and teaching them coping mechanisms to deal with that. And then I look at the final phase of the process, which is the punitive or punishing, people that are either users and or sellers. Okay, so let me walk through each one of those real briefly. All of them, I think, play a role. Okay, you need to have some punitive or some kind of punishment, particularly when we talk about organized crime. Because I do agree with something that Mo, you brought up earlier, to throw a mother in jail that's selling enough cot or enough of a substance to feed her children is not the right solution. Okay, but an organized crime, okay, syndicate, that's different. We're talking about different things there. Okay, so agree with you, Johnny, that definitely in society, when you start addressing the root cause of why people turn to substance abuse, that's an important step to solving it long term. I agree with that. It's challenging because I don't think we'll ever get there, because there are so many reasons why. Some of it's cultural. Okay, in many countries, it's cultural to drink. In many countries, it's cultural to use in some parts of South America. Okay, it's common for people to chew cocoa leaves, right? The basis for cocaine. That's common. Okay, in some countries, it's common for people to use khat. Okay, so some of that is tied to their culture. Okay, so I'm not sure how we deal with those situations, but in terms of the other triggers like economic issues, maybe where you have situation, kids grow up in a household where the parents are abusers, which obviously will make them predisposed or more susceptible to following that same behavior when they get older. Those are certainly things that something can be done about. Awareness and education. Again, I think it is important to let people know about the consequences. They can still make their choice, okay? And some people may still choose to do something, but they at least should make what we call an informed decision. Before they drink, they should understand the consequences before they smoke, before they use a drug, okay? In my situation, like I said this before, before I joined the military, I tried drugs. I tried cocaine. I tried hashish. I tried marijuana. I tried speed. Okay, I did these things. Okay, that was just a large percentage of people in the United States will experiment. They'll try something. Okay, that's natural for a lot of people. Okay, and I did the same thing. I didn't do it long term because, again, when I joined the military, I didn't. We couldn't use those hard drugs, but in the military, you do have a culture where people maybe drink and they smoke cigarettes. Okay, so maybe there's not the hard drugs, but there are other things that people do. Okay, but awareness is important to me. Education, letting people know that these will be problems in the future. Okay, or could be. All right. Give me a second. Looks like somebody's trying to call in the debate group. Okay, so the third thing is rehabilitation. So as somebody that's worked with rehabilitation centers and somebody that's counseled people that have gone to rehabilitation centers, it's an important part of the process because there are people that already have abuse problems, and that's happening now today. Okay. And again, the reason why these facilities are so important is to teach them how to develop coping mechanisms, right, for these situations, whether it's bad relationship, whether it be were introduced at a very young age to something, they have certain stresses in their life that they have a hard time dealing with. Okay, so rehabilitation is all about teaching people coping skills, how the skill of coping with these issues. Okay, and coping with it in a healthy way. Okay, the last part is again the punitive phase or the punishment. Again, I think it's silly to send somebody to prison for smoking a marijuana cigarette. Okay, I think that's silly. Okay, I think that's not a good use of resources. Okay, because I think in most cases the user, rather than punishment, they need help. I don't really agree so much in the punishment. Now, organized gangs, crime syndicates, that's a different story. Okay, I think those people definitely should face consequences for their actions. Okay, because again, we had something here when Obama was our president. They had a policy where they were trying to release non-violent offenders. Okay, so people that had not committed an act of violence from jail, and the reason why was because you look at how much we spend in my country on keeping people in prisons, right? It's crazy. It's crazy how much money we spend on that. And if they took just part of that money, and they've done research, and I've got some data I could show you guys later on. They've done research to show if you took and put somebody through rehab, okay, you're spending what we call pennies on the dollar, meaning that we're spending a lot less money on treating people that have substance abuse issues than putting them in prison. Okay, so it's much more cost effective to treat them rather than to put them in jail. Okay, many jails these days, many prisons these days offer rehab programs as well, so that when they are released from prison, okay, they don't go back and start that again. And again, it goes back to teaching them coping skills. Okay. So to me, here in our country, in the United States, it's common. I was gonna say it's common for smoking. Still, a lot of people smoke. Okay, California, where I live, they have restrictions. For example, you cannot smoke in a bar. Okay, so they pass certain laws. Okay, drinking. If you're driving and drinking, they're very strict about that. Okay, marijuana, again, it's actually legal now in many places in my country. Hard drugs, heroin, cocaine, crack, speed, these things are actually illegal. Okay, so you can still get in trouble for those things, but something like marijuana now is being accepted in society. And for me personally speaking, I have my bad habits. Okay. All of us do. Okay. But I definitely, when it comes to the drugs such as marijuana and hashish and cocaine and these things, I don't touch them. Last time I touched those things was a long time ago. Okay. And that's it. So any questions?
And it could be a private question, but if you can answer, why did you use?
You know what? That's an interesting. So I was. Let me think about this. 15, 16. Okay, so I guess I was about 17 at the time, maybe 17, 18. I had just barely finished high school, and this is when I was going to college at the time, and before I joined the military. I just think that, I was curious. I had, I was also at the same time, I was also starting my own landscaping company, and I was working with people. And I wanted to try. I was curious. It was curiosity. I had some friends of mine, they were Mexican. I wanted to try marijuana. I wanted to try hashish, see what it tasted like. Okay. So I think it was more curiosity. To be honest with you, though, it just didn't really, I didn't see anything special about it. It was like, okay. It wasn't, I don't know. I just didn't think it was that special. I just said, So, yeah. So I think, and again, a lot of people will do that, right? They'll go to what we call an experimental phase, right? So they'll experiment with things and check them out. And that's common for a lot of people to do that here, at least here in my country. Most people, it doesn't turn into a long-term problem, okay? But most people in my country, and it's common. You go out with a group of friends, maybe somebody is smoking some marijuana, say, hey, I don't want to try that, right? Or that's common. The United States is, again, we have a lot of different people here. Again, most people in my country don't drink hard liquor. That hard liquor, it's not like, for example, say in Russia, where a lot of people may drink vodka or other countries. We don't do that so much here. Beer is popular here, of course. I said cigarettes are still popular, even though they're getting very strict about it. And it gets very expensive. Okay. but yeah, so for me, I think it was just more, I was curious.
Yeah. And 60s, 70s America, pop culture and counterculture was, pretty influential.
Yeah. And I think that there are, every country or every society goes through its phases, right?
Right. So that's why I pointed out, education is somewhat tricky. Some people, especially some youngsters, were attracted, were curious about that. Just saying, just saying things is bad or such things. So.
Yeah. I think.
I don't know how to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I think that it is something that. Again, just here in my country, a lot of people, they experiment. They try it, and For me, if I had not joined the military, would I still have done it? I might have tried a little bit more, but it just wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't that special to me. It wasn't like, wow, cool. I mean, yeah, it was fun. I mean, I had some interesting experiences. Okay, I'll put it like that. I had some very interesting experiences, but when I joined the military, it was we can't do it. You can't do drugs and be them. So I stopped, and I just never started again. I just never did it. It wasn't, it was like now one thing I did pick up when I was in the military was smoking, because it was very common, for people in the military. Okay, so that was, a habit I did pick up. Drinking, the same thing, even though I don't personally like drinking that much. I don't like alcohol that much. So, okay, any other questions?
Yeah, you said when you were talking about substance abuse, you just give an example about your state. And how about the other states? I think you don't have equal. You mean you don't have equal laws across the USA? You have one state, one rule, and then is that like that, or?
Yeah. Where it's so I think about this all the time. I say, oh my gosh, like you could be in California and you feel like you're on the moon, and you could be in Texas and feel like you're on Mars. Okay, different planets. Okay, different countries, almost like. Yeah, because here the states have their own laws in addition to the federal government. Okay. So the example is, like I said before, is that in California, something like marijuana is legal. Colorado is legal. But if I go to another state, it could be illegal. Okay. So here in California, I could go to a store legally if I wanted to. I mean, I wouldn't because of my job, but if I wanted to, I could go to a store and buy something legally. I don't have to worry about the police. Okay, it's legal. It's like buying a cigarette, okay, or buying a beer, okay. But if I go to a different state, you would not be able to do that. Okay. And then you have the federal government in Washington that says it's illegal anywhere in the United States. Okay, so you have these conflicting. It's the same thing about guns. Okay, in some states you have certain rules about the kind of guns you can buy. In other states you have different rules. Okay, so it makes it interesting. I'll say this much. I guess in my country we believe very strongly in the state's ability to create laws. But then you have problems because if the federal government has its own laws, maybe now you have a conflict, right? And we see this all the time, So it's that's true, Moyo. It's an interesting place to live. Okay.
That's new knowledge to me. Yeah.
California tends to be one of those states that we call more liberal, more progressive, more open society where, in California, people are more accepting of something that's different. For example, legalizing marijuana, okay? Marriage equality for all genders, whether you're male or female, okay? They tend to be harder on things like guns. Like, for example, in California, we have very, very strict rules about guns, okay? You can still buy guns, but there are strict rules about the types of guns you can buy, okay? If I go to Texas, it's completely different, okay? So, that's why I always, I love my country, all of it, but I'm really proud of California in most cases. I think California does a pretty good job. Of all the states in my country, I think California does a pretty good job. So, any other questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, just one question. Sorry. Why California became such a liberal state?
You know what? I think that I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what I think. I think that it's always been a place for immigrants. First of all, okay. If you look at the history, New York, I would say New York City, right?
Mm-hmm.
In California. People on the East Coast, New York, for example, people that came from Europe, hundreds of years ago, they all came to New York, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Most people that come to my country from the West Coast come to California, okay? Mm-hmm. I think that maybe part of it too is that we've always been known as so we've always had a very diversified diversified population, right? Asian and black and white and Hispanic, okay? So I think when you get that kind of diversity, people in general become more open-minded, right? In general, I think they do, okay? So compared to, let me go to a state where maybe like Montana, which has this very small population, okay, and a majority of the people there are white. Okay, you won't find a lot of Asians. You won't find a lot of, So people there tend to be more conservative in their views, right? Mm-hmm. So this is again why I really enjoy diversity. You talk to some people in my country, to be honest, they don't like diversity, right? They only like being around people that look like them, that think like them. Okay. I don't like that. And what, if they want to think that way, that's up to them. That's their choice. But I don't like that, personally speaking, because I think that it doesn't allow us to learn, and it doesn't allow us to grow when we're only around people that look like us and think like us. I think we grow as people when we're around people that have different views, different ideas, okay? I think then we grow, because what is growth? Growth is learning, right? So to me, I think that's why California has always been more progressive. It's got the strongest economy in the United States. Okay, easy. It's got the strongest economy. I hear these people say, "Oh, California should be its own country," right? And it could if it wanted to be honest with you, because we have such a strong economy and everything else. But I think that's why.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. because I'm always curious about, hippie came from California originally. So also, the San Francisco's mayor, I forgot his name. Yeah, first gay mayor.
Yeah. We've always been a very progressive. Now that doesn't mean that again, to me, if someone says, Rick, are you progressive or conservative? I'll say I'm both. There are things I believe in.
I heard in English, liberal means open for new idea or concept. Is it right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And to me, there's certain values I think that I would relate to more that, from a conservative standpoint. But at the same time, there are certainly ideas I believe in. So I think, again, in California, when we talk about things like drug use, because it is a problem in my state, you do have people that use hard drugs that, this creates problems with, and you do have organized gangs that sell drugs, okay, which is a problem, okay? So I think that we have our problems like everywhere else. But people here are very open-minded about how to treat them and how to deal with them. So, okay. All right. Well, I think, Johnny, we probably went a long time, actually, with a pretty small. It's amazing that we could go for this long with just a few people, huh?
Same as yesterday.
Yeah, there's some noise in the background here. Give me a second. Okay. Well, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and wrap up. So thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Moyu. Thank you, Hiroki. And again, we're going to have to figure out, I guess, Johnny, maybe in our global team meeting, we can figure out this Saturday. Again, I think actually we had a pretty... Sometimes having a smaller group is not a bad thing, because actually, we don't have people popping in and popping out, popping in and popping out. So there's much more stability. Okay. And actually, sometimes I think it might be better, but we could talk about that on Monday when we have our meeting, because I'm wondering about the time, if this time that maybe we need to relook at the time or something, or we could just keep doing what we're doing. Alrighty.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed. I really like just these less people, few people. Yeah, for me, it's a chance to talk. Yeah.
I know, Hiroki. What do you think? Do you like it when it's a smaller group of people?
Because we can get more chance to talk.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of it.
Yeah, not only just if you have more chance, but also it's very quiet and people are understandable. Yeah, everything is clear.
Yeah, that's very true. When we have the larger groups, it can be a challenge, because obviously we have to share time for each person. Plus, like you said, you might have a lot of noise in the background for some people, and the quality is not always the same in terms of the, if we record it, for example, or if we live stream it and people listen to it, they don't get the same quality. What I like about having 2 or 3 people, it's almost like doing a podcast. Okay, where you just have a small couple people and you are able to have a quality discussion without a lot of background noise. And that's actually pretty nice. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go though. Thank you so much, and I guess Johnny will catch up with you and a few other things. I'm looking at a lot of messages here. I got to catch up on in the education group and other groups. So
yeah, we have a meeting, right?
I'm sure I'll be in contact. Okay. When? Today?
Don't we?
What meeting today? Today's Saturday. What meeting? Not Saturday? No. Unless there's a meeting that I'm not aware of. I mean, yeah, unless there's something that I'm not... Tomorrow we do. Tomorrow we have our Tunisian team meeting. Then Monday unless there's another meeting that there could be somebody propose something. I don't know. I have to catch up on the chats in the groups. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your team and your effort and generosity. Thank you so much, you and Jenny and Rook and everyone.
Okay. Well, take care of yourself, and I hope your family's doing good. Okay. Okay. Bye bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Sayonara. Bye bye.
Bye bye.